Within each object are pieces of a whole. Each fragment is a glimpse at something larger, a puzzle. You must find knowledge beyond merely yourself. You must literally.
I was standing in a small house in the woods, surrounded by a myriad of animals of every kind. A nest, lying in the center, held a little girl, myself, pale and asleep. The animals cried as I stood over her, and a little white bird flew through the window. It said, "You must clap, you must believe, or she will die." I tried to clap, and I did, but the animals could not. I saw she was doomed, and I clapped along as she died. No one could help her. The moon, like a massive pearl, illuminated the scene. A twisted emerald lake, crowded with tiny ships. In a bird's nest boat, I was a little girl with a broomstick mast and bedsheet sail. A cloud moved across the moon, and it was a flock of little white birds. They broke across the fleet of ships, and we rose.
A thread. Now that you have resolved all the fragments and understood the meaning of all objects, you will connect with the presence.
I lay back by the edge of the pool to catch my breath as water dripped off of me onto the tiles. I was no longer hysterical, but troubled by how close I had come to the unfathomable darkness. I blinked, and a deathly pale female face broke the surface of the water. The drowned woman spoke. "I don't think two people could have been happier till this terrible disease came. I can't fight any longer." As the water crashed over me, I sensed a change. It was night, and above, a bright full moon hung dangerously low, as if to consume me. I panicked, I flailed, I fought against the darkness below me. The thrust of my legs propelled me closer to the surface, but something was dragging me down. I burst, gasping through the surface. Desperate fear, not valor, surged into me as light bled and faded from the entire room. My shadow threw the odd doctor to the floor in front of me. She screamed like a banshee and dove towards me. I flailed for something, anything to help me. I rushed down a hallway towards two large wooden doors, but I felt my shadow fly towards me across the old walls in the dim light. I burst into a room filled with shelves upon shelves of books, an unlit fireplace and a large leather chair on which sat a bearded man with dark eyes and skin the texture of an old photo. struggled in the crowd, I watched my shadow race out from under my feet after the green light. A prim and mustached man spoke up beside me. "Lost your shadow, I see. Fear not, I shall find it." He cocked a brow and set off in the same direction. I pushed through the throngs of people, doing my best. I was lost in a crowd. Thousands of people were aflutter around me. Many had congregated on a dock, looking off at something in the distance, speaking in languages I could not understand. As I joined them, I saw... The sleuth led me to a man sleeping against a tree. The green light, which I could now see to be a fairy, was buzzing about a book clutched in the sleeping man's hands. My shadow stood watching, dazzled by the spectacle. The sleuth revealed his logic. The man's rainbowed collection of stories. Looking outside, I saw that the sea of immigrants had given way to an ocean of amber wheat as the train surged forward. From beneath, I was let off the train at the last stop and was surprised to see a noon sun on an empty street. The whole town appeared to be deserted, with the exception of a flock of green parrots gathered on an increasing number of buildings. Their black eyes tracked my every step, and they seemed to mumble and whisper. The shadow of a bridge darkened the street ahead of me. My stomach knotted, and I was filled with an overwhelming sense of dread as I gazed up into the eye. I felt drawn to the ominous bird. Once I joined it at the edge of the bridge, the bird began speaking with 3 distinct female voices. First, she asked who I was, a question I had no answer to. I felt incomplete, as if my existence were a word on the tip of my tongue. She asked me where I was, a challenge hidden in her voice. "A dream," I said with false conviction. I could hear her beak clicking in disappointment. The bird asked me if I could fly, and suddenly I was thrown over the railing. Turning in the air, shocked, I saw my shadow peering down at me. There was no dark bird. I took a breath. Something has changed. A set of doors opened to soot, ash, and ember, raining from the sky. I move with a crowd of people to the street as the storm anoints us. The church doors slam behind us. My feet cracked and bleeding. Those around me powdered white, their eyes blackened out with crosses. Those that have a lacquer glazed scent of silk, wet wood, and glass. There around me are dolls in fine dresses, with eyes dull and soulless, as if the craftsman had given up. I pull myself from a hole in the ground, caked with mud. Others struggle with me and push from below. My vision is blurry and I ache in my gut. And as I wipe away the mud, my skin feels like pages from a book, dusty and old. We move as a group, a river of disease and filth spreading up Cobblestone Street to the temple of the state. I feel everyone, each of them burning inside. I sense their hands on my shoulder and womb. It kicks and moves within me, and I cannot see her face, for the pain I must endure is blinding. I stand in a line in the sun, and we are all judged. The eyes upon us are those of barons and kings, made divine by their... Staring up at a stucco ceiling, I feel water splashing my face, as fingers massage soap into my hair. Scalding water washes over my scalp, and the... A coarse hempen shawl covers my body, naked and smelling of hay and wax. A dark-skinned old woman kneels beside me, dressed in reeds and rough. The fire licks at my legs, and the air is alive with the smell of ale and freshly baked bread. I'm part of this great effervescence. I stand in the rain above a mighty river with soft water and mossy banks. 9 children hold hands and wade into the water together. A fear takes... I cough up blood and grip the sand beneath me. I am on a beach, looking out at the water, on fire as ships burn across it. I crawl as my hand runs across something cold in the sand. I cannot look as I'm stuck by the village near the shore, set ablaze. Blood pours from there in waves. I am on my knees between cool sea water and warm blood. The beating drums radiate through my body as I convulse. Something inside me grows, writhing. A taste of bitter flowers and musty fish on my numb lips. A contraction knocks the wind out of me, filling my extremities, forcing its... The woods part before my steps. I hear the child inside me screaming, and then before me, a great gathering. These trees have...
Divination.
A woman sits at the head of a round table. Around her, my loved ones. As if through a cushion, she speaks louder, almost a scream, when suddenly, a hush falls over them. Then, I hear it. A rhythmic tapping, which leads me to the seance woman. I see her cracking her ankles repeatedly. My loved ones let out muffled screams, and as the candles on the altar are blown out, a string is tugged, revealing a mirror from beneath a shroud. I see myself, overcast by an unnatural shadow in the silver mirror. I'm standing in a room my body racked with weariness and the scent of formaldehyde. I am kept rigid by metal wires and swaths of cloth. A doll on display. The wires supporting my head force my neck at an almost unnatural angle. My hands rest on the head of another. The pyre was piled high by the time I reached it. A small mountain of books and tapestries, jewelry, and furniture that bore the weight of sin. Until I saw how carefully I placed them, I never felt these things define me so. I stand back to take in the full scope of it, and as the fire spreads, I catch my reflection in one of the mirrors. I watch her scream and burn, trapped behind the glass. Suddenly, I tear into the pile, ripping out the mirror, my hands red and blistering. I throw it to the ground to From the woods, I can see children in the distance, singing a nursery rhyme. Mother leads, how you wished for death indeed. I feel that I am being followed. I pick up my speed. From the woods, your curse did scream. I hope it's just one of the children following me, as their song becomes louder. Mother leads, she regretted 12 until she got to 13. I see the decimated carcass of a wolf. The lake, usually alive with a chorus of frogs and birds, has grown dead silent. I stumble down to the edge of the water, with my head all but exploded. The taste of... I'm pounding away with my pestle. It grinds against the base of the mortar, as the contents make a sickening wet noise. Some of them try to escape, ants teeming out of the mortar and scurrying up my arms, away from their fate. I swat them back in and continue making my paste. I know when I see them next, I'll lace their favorite pudding with this. I have heard the voices they hear, groaning at you from within your own stomach, speaking a language.
The door has opened. You have uncovered when the last days were upon me, and the ugly trifles of existence began to drop.